This is a small print bed. This one's even smaller. This one is the smallest print bed I own. Why would anyone need such a small printer? Do they print good quality? Are they even worth it? Let's find out. Unboxing the Geeetech M1 printer was super easy. It comes with a user manual, power cord, printing material, tools, a tube known as a Bowden tube, the spool holder, the power supply, and of course, the 3D printer. To get this printer ready for printing, all you need to do is attach the spool holder, power cord, and the tube. Then feed the printing material through the tube. Before you start your first print, the printer will tell you it's not leveled. So the first thing you need to do is level the bed. I've been 3D printing since 2017. Leveling the bed back then was so different than it is today with new printers. It used to be you had to get a piece of paper and slide it under the nozzle and have the printer go in each corner and a bunch of different places on the bed to make sure it was grabbing that piece of paper, not too hard, not too soft, just right. This could take minutes, it could take hours if your printer settings and the springs and everything weren't aligned correctly, and it was just a huge headache. Nowadays, with printers like these, you click one button and it automatically levels the whole print bed. We've had this printer for a couple of weeks. We've printed a ton of things on it and I'd like to show those to you. But first, why would anyone want a printer this small? I reached out to Geeetech to ask them, why did you build this printer? What is the purpose of something so tiny? They gave me a pretty good response and I would say I have to agree. Before we talk about it, let's test a few things and see how this printer does. If you've watched any of our other videos, we always start off with a Benchy. Let's test it out. Before every print, the printer will clean the nozzle with a silicone brush located in the back. We're starting to see this more and more, but it's not as common as automatic bed leveling, so I would say that's a plus with this printer. The Benchy came out pretty good, but I've seen better, I've seen worse. It took about 30 minutes to print. Now we have one printer that can print a Benchy in 8 minutes, and I would say it's almost matched in quality, but it costs 7 times the amount as this printer. There were some issues with this print, but I don't think it was because of the printer itself. And that brings up a point I just have to talk about. Almost every 3D printer I've received comes with a sample amount of 3D printing material. Usually it's PLA. The problem is, it comes like this. It doesn't come on a spool. So as the printer is trying to print, this can get bunched up and knotted and cause tension on the head of the printer, which will cause it to have gaps or to have layer shifting, and it's kind of a pain, but they keep sending those. Out of the 20 plus printers I've owned and unboxed, there's only been 2 or 3 that sent me an actual spool, even if it were a smaller one. So let's get rid of this filament and see how a real spool can do. What? A full-size spool of filament does not fit this printer. It hits the power cord. That's a big negative for me. This is just a sample of all the spools that I have, and I can't use any of them on this printer. If I remove the power cord, does this work? They just need to position the power cord somewhere else. This isn't a deal breaker to me, but it is a pretty big negative. However, now I have an excuse to open up a filament dryer that was sent to me by EIBOS. This is the polyphemus filament dryer. If you're wondering what this is, oftentimes your filament will start to absorb water. And when it gets water in the filament, it starts to have failed prints. Things don't stick, things fall apart. So it's important to keep your filament dry. As you can tell, I don't store all my filament in containers or bins with those little beads, the desiccants. I probably should, but now that I have this filament dryer, I can just throw them in there right before a print or during a print and dry out the filament. This thing is sweet. It's really compact, it looks slick, and normally I'd say it's pretty small, but compared to this guy, it's a little big. Now that I have the filament on an actual spool holder, let's see how it does printing a Benchy again. Okay, so that does look better. I'm not seeing as many defects. There still are a couple of gaps here and there, but that's why this is a Benchy benchmark print. It's kind of complicated, a little more tricky for printers to print. Let's print the cat pen holder next. This is looking really good. I'm actually really impressed with the quality. It had an issue with the tail and, oh, there it goes. I think this printed better than the Benchy, but it's also an easier part with less retractions. There's little to no bridging since it used support, so it doesn't have as many chances to make a mistake. Now let's try the Astronaut. Wow, this looks amazing. I would say this is my favorite print so far on the Geeetech M1. What impresses me the most is the amount of material that was touching the build plate was very small. Typically you'd see a brim or a raft to help hold this print down, but it stayed on the print bed, it had good adhesion, I didn't use glue sticks or anything, and it printed really well. I'm still curious as to why someone would want a printer this small. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm not too surprised that these prints came out looking really good. It's typical for printer companies to add a Benchy and some of the other little knickknacks and toys shipped out of box with the 3D printer. It gives people a chance to test something right away. It gives you that instant gratification. Well, 30 minutes instant gratification. And it lets you know, yes, I did the right thing. I made the right purchase. This thing can print good quality. But it ends right there. If you're a beginner, you're excited. You're now trying to figure out, how do I print some of my own designs? Or how do I find something off the internet and print it? That's where things can go the wrong way. I get questions all the time from parents and kids where their printer works really well for these prints, but then they try to slice something on their own and it doesn't work. Did I just say slice something? With this printer and just about every printer that exists, you need what's called a slicer. Think of a slicer like the GPS for your printer. It tells you where to go. It tells you how fast, how slow. It even tells you what temperature it should be at and what layer it should be on. Without a slicer, if you take a model, you put it on the SD card, the printer's not going to know what to do. We talk more about slicers in this video, but for now, just know you need a slicer. You need to tell the printer how to take this 3D model and turn it into lines and layers and coordinates and temperatures. It's kind of like Google Maps on steroids. Geeetech sent me some flexible filament. Now this printer can print two types of materials. PLA, which is the most used type of plastic 3D printing material today, and probably one of the next most used is TPU. This is flexible filament that can kind of stretch or give a little bit. It doesn't break as easy as PLA when bent or stepped on or whatever. If you've never printed with TPU before and you're having issues, take a look at this video. We talk about the ins and outs of TPU and some of the things that we did to fix some of our issues that we had. Now let's try printing something like the Open Bionics flexible hand. You've probably seen it in other videos. It's kind of like our benchmark Benchy, but for TPU. Well, the print has fallen off the bed. Something we talk about a lot is when you get a 3D printer, one of the first things we recommend is to take that bed and put it under hot water with soap and give it a good wash. I haven't done that yet, so I'll go ahead and do that right now and reprint this. Something's going on here. It's not printing like it should. I think that this filament has too much moisture in it. I'm going to try a different spool that I've already dried out and throw this one in the filament dryer overnight. In the meantime, let's test this other color. Wow, that worked and it looks so smooth. It did leave a little stringing, but that could usually be fixed with turning up retraction or messing with some of the other settings. And again, we have a video on that. But this is pretty cool. With each of these tests that are not part of the SD card out-of-box prints, I'm going to test them on this printer, but also on another printer that's roughly the same price, just to give you an idea of the quality of this one versus something different. Here's what it looks like with that other printer. It did come out cleaner. It doesn't have as much stringing. So I would say maybe it's a little better, but this one still did a really good job. It's been 12 hours. Let's test out that clear filament again. Oh yeah, much better. It is more difficult to push up. I feel like there's more stringing inside of the fingers that are keeping it from moving as smooth, so it might just need more time in the filament dryer. I've used a few different filament dryers. This one was sent to us as a sponsor for this video. Huge thank you to EIBOS for sending us the filament dryer. If you're interested in one, I'll drop a link down below. Now let's try printing one of those retractable swords. Here's the sword at 100% scale. It doesn't even fit inside. I'm going to shrink it down to 50%, but I worry it'll be so small that I won't be able to do this. Let's find out. This is looking really good. Well, unfortunately, it didn't work. And this wasn't because of the printer. It's just you can't scale this down 50% and expect those small layers not to fuse together like this. I even printed one at 75% scale and same thing. Now, just for fun, I printed one bigger than this printer. It is a beast. It's almost 4 pounds, but it does work. Anyway, that's for another video. Check back and you'll see some other things that we have supersized. That looks pretty crazy. So far, I'm really liking this printer. It prints good quality. There were some issues with the TPU and stringing just a little bit, but I think that can be fixed with calibrating some of the settings. I've had printers 2 to 3 times more expensive than this, and they needed to have calibrations done as well. So it can print toys, it can print good quality. What about functional parts? Let's see how it does with a nut and bolt. These came out really good, but about halfway down, there's too much friction and I can't get it to go anymore. Oh, yeah, that's gonna break. As a comparison, I printed this on the other printer around the same price and watch this. Can't do that with this one. Now that being said, there are configuration tests that you can run to look at the flow. You can even change the walls to be a little thinner. Maybe that will fit better. I haven't messed with those yet, but if I do, I'll let you know in the comments if I'm able to get this to spin off. Let's run another test to see how well this does at bridging, retraction, and tolerance. Okay, so this came out looking pretty good, except for this retraction issue. I have no idea what's going on. It doesn't seem to have an issue at the top where it's truly testing out retraction in the settings. Before we look at the tolerance and the bridging, I'm gonna try running this again, but I'll run a retraction test first and see if we can dial down that retraction a little bit. Well, that looks amazing. There's no stringing. Let's try running this test again. I am puzzled. If you know what's going on, please let me know. I don't know why it's retracting everywhere else except for this part here. Looking at this print, I would say the printer did the best with bridging. It might have struggled a little bit at the top here, but everywhere else, those overhangs came out looking really good. Just like the other tests, I'll run this on the other printer. I don't think I've mentioned the other printer. It's the Bambu Lab A1 Mini. I'll put a link down below if you want to check it out. So this printer did an amazing job. It didn't have that weird retraction issue, but since I was doing a time lapse, little bits of that filament started to ooze out and it pretty much broke many of these cones, so we're not gonna pay attention to that. But as far as bridging goes, I would actually say these two printers did a good job, with the M1 doing a little better. But one thing that the M1 could not do, which I was worried about because of the nut and bolt not going on all the way, is the tolerance test. Each of these cylinders should fall out. On the Bambu Lab A1 Mini, they all fell out except for the 0.2 tolerance, but it just took a little push and that one fell out as well. So if there's one thing I would recommend if you purchase this printer is to calibrate the flow and the wall widths and just dial in the settings for tolerance. There are tons of videos for tolerance testing, and I think if you dial those in, this printer would do just as good of a job. We've talked about some of the pros of this printer, now let's talk about some of the cons. The first one, which I guess we've already mentioned, is it doesn't hold a full-size spool. The second one I experienced was the filament runout sensor. I actually had some filament run out. I let the filament go past the filament detector, which is located inside of this tube, and the printer didn't stop. I made sure that the setting was turned on so it would detect that. I'm hoping that's just an issue with my printer. I'll reach out to Geeetech, see if there's anything I can do to fix it, and if there is, or if it was something I was doing wrong on my end, I will leave an update down below. Something else I'm not a fan of. The fan. It is loud, much louder than the Bambu Lab printer. When the fan is off, it runs between 50 and 55 dB, which is so quiet I can have it sitting next to me while I'm on calls. But as soon as the fan turns on, it jumps up to 70. I've even seen it peak at 75 dB. And that's just really loud. So if you have this in your classroom or in your office, Either run it without the fans on, or maybe turn the fans down, or just throw it in the corner. I mean, it's so small, you could pretty much put it anywhere. In fact, at the end of this video, I'll throw it up in the bookshelf and you'll see how small it is. I do like how when the print finishes apart and the fans shut off, it is as quiet as can be. It's been turned on during this whole video and it has not made a noise. Now, the last con that kind of surprised me is there's no Wi-Fi on this thing, which means anytime you want to print something, you need to pop out the SD card. Oh gosh, that just shot somewhere. You need to pop this out, put it into a bigger SD card or a USB that attaches to a dongle or something that goes into your computer. It's kind of a pain. The other option is you could plug it in through USB. I haven't tried that yet, so I don't know if it actually works on a Mac, which is what I use. I've seen this printer as low as $211 US, and the Bamboo Lab I think is sitting at $219. I have printers below $200, and all of those have Wi-Fi connection, which means from my computer, I can send a print and I don't have to get up. I don't need to use the SD card. I don't need a USB cord. I don't need a network cord. That being said, none of my printers are even close to as small as this one. They take up a much bigger footprint and I couldn't have them sitting right next to me without getting in the way. Which brings us to the big question, why would you want a printer so small? Why did Geeetech create such a small printer? Well, I reached out to them and they said, these printers are great for three main reasons. The first one being they are great for educational projects. It's so small, you could put it on a desk, you could probably throw it in a locker, but it's a great option if you have a small classroom and you want to teach your kids how to use 3D printers. The second reason they created such a small printer is for college students. You think about a dorm room or a flat or a small apartment and you're sharing a room with at least one other person. You don't have a lot of desk space, but this doesn't need a desk. It could sit on a dresser. It could sit on the back of a toilet. I mean, this thing could really go anywhere. So it's small, it's compact, it does good quality work. And lastly, they take this to the next step where it's not just for students in college, but it's for anyone who's curious about 3D printing. They don't have a lot of space. So you're paying for the benefits of good quality within a very small printer. You've probably seen other printers this size, the Toy Box, the Tina 2. I'm sure by the time you see this video, there will be 50 other small printers. But this one, I believe, is the best so far. I haven't tried all the other ones. Some of them don't have heated beds, some of them can't print TPU, and some of them don't even have a cooling fan. If you think I should buy all of the tiny 3D printers on Amazon and give each one a test, comment down below. If I get enough interest, I will go and start buying them today. Now you're probably wondering, would I buy this printer? Is it worth it to me? The answer is yes. If I had a small apartment or if I was limited in space in some other capacity, this would be the perfect little 3D printer. It prints PLA and TPU. If I'm just starting out or I want to learn how to use a 3D printer and I don't have a lot of space, this is perfect for that. Quick shout out to all of our YouTube and Patreon members. Your contributions allow us to continue making videos like this. Now watch me put this in my IKEA shelves. So this thing fits perfectly. If I had 8 of these printers, I could fill up this bookshelf, I could mass produce little items on a small scale, and it's only taking up one bookshelf. This printer itself is huge. It's 150 pounds, it's probably heavier than the bookshelf, and if I had 8 M1 3D printers on it. That's it.